Welcome to Toilets to Titles Down Under Dynasty with your host at Live from the Ben, and with me, not as usual, one of my AJ from the Aussie Guys, one of the preeminent minds of Australian rules fantasy football.
Oh man, what an intro! I don't know if I can live up to that. Where's Hatton?
I don't know. Look, I tried to get him on here at the last minute. This is a bit of an ad hoc kind of thing. He mustn't be available. That is the kind of life when you got, a wife and children and family and stuff like that. So, we miss you, Hatton. We apologize that you're not here. But I had the opportunity to talk with the one and only AJ. Again, preeminent mind of Australian fantasy football. And I just couldn't pass it up.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And funky intro. That is that you on the trumpet?
No, that was something that I found in story blocks on Apple.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's totally legal, and it was in story blocks in what's that Apple?
iMovie?
No. What's the name of the app?
Apple Music.
No. I can't remember the name of it. It eludes me. I'm gonna get it. LumaFusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very easy to put together things in LumaFusion. Very nice for somebody like a bit basic like myself.
There you go. There's your Apple tip of the day.
Apple tip of the day.
In Apple news, are you a Mac or a PC person?
I'm a PC person because I just like the suite of Excel and Word and.
Okay.
Yeah.
They run on Mac.
Do they?
Yes. Yeah.
Are all the functions the same?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
What doesn't exist though is Access.
Okay.
Doesn't exist for the Mac. I don't know why.
Because I've got an iPad and I use Excel on an iPad and it's way more limited than Excel on desktop.
Oh, the iPad one, yes. But yeah, on desktop, perfectly fine. Yeah, but that's a segue. But my iMac desktop crashed during the week. Dead. Ooh. Dunsky. But I bought it in, get this though, I bought it in 2014. I tell you, iMacs, they just churn. Yeah. Like basically 7 or 8 years old at this stage. And it had been slowing down a little bit, but basically fine. Like a PC, you can't use a PC beyond 3 years.
Oh, come on, man. He's up. I bought a Dell XPS last year because I was waiting.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to wait for the new Macs, and then I got sick of waiting, and I didn't want to have like an inferior Mac. So anyway.
Yeah,
it's technology. It's all shit. Like it's always like inferior 6 months after you buy it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
But
yeah, it is.
This does the job.
Yeah. Absolutely. So free agency.
NFL free agency. I thought I'd jump on with you, AJ, and we could talk about NFL free agency and how it has impacted the value of some of these big ticket players who have moved around at a rate we haven't seen before. But
it's been insane.
But before we move on, I must do a tribute to the Aussie Guys. Drinks of the pod.
Oh, nice.
All right. This is from Cavalier Brewing in Derrimut, right near me.
Lovely.
Lickety Split Raspberry Ice Cream Sour.
Oh.
It is.
I can see the color of it too.
A decent beer. Let me tell you, these mob are just about 15 minutes down the road from me. Highly recommend them if you're in, the northwestern suburbs.
Lovely.
So go check them out.
Look at that color.
It is.
That's
beautiful.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Gee.
You can taste the lactose.
Oh man. Oh, very good. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Look, let's kick off with the biggest item of all, the domino we were waiting to fall through the whole of the free agency. Deshaun Watson.
Oof. Wow.
How do you feel about One, Deshaun Watson, his fantasy value on the Browns in the Kevin Stefanski offense. How do you feel about owning him overall?
Oof, that's a whole different question. So it's a shame we don't have Hatton on, because in a league that I'm in with Hatton, I traded, well, basically hot on the heels of the breaking Deshaun Watson story, like a year and a half ago now at this point. I was like, that's it. I'm out. And I traded Deshaun Watson to Hatton for his 22 first.
Just straight up.
Straight up.
Ooh.
And the 22 first hasn't turned out to be brilliant. I think it's the 110.
Jesus.
Now, if I'd held him, I mean, he's worth a hell of a lot more right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what is his trade value right now, Deshaun? Straight up.
He'd be worth more than the 2022 101.
Yeah, I agree. Couple of firsts or a few firsts.
You're probably, I think you're looking at like the 101 and then like another back end first.
Yeah, that almost. Oh, yeah, it almost feels cheap. I tell you, in a 12-team super flex, mind you, in the run up to the playoffs last year, so I was a little bit more incentivized. But I traded for Dak, and I paid 3 firsts.
3 firsts.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure I got the deal done. So, maybe I overpaid. I don't know. Maybe I overpaid. But I kind of feel like that's the price you kind of have to pay for a top-tier quarterback in a superflex.
Well, look, 3 firsts is kind of the standard.
And also, my team was good. My team was good, so they were going to always be low. They were all 3. I figure are low, for pretty high, low firsts. 110 to 112.
But do you think with everything that's happening around Watson at the moment that he's still worth 3 firsts? I mean,
this is the question, right? This is a good question. Is if you think it's a good football move, and it probably is, like Deshaun Watson's a top 5 quarterback, right out of the gate, right?
Yep.
He's a top 5. So now this stuff is out of the way. He might get rubbed out for some games.
Is it out of the way? Is it out of the way?
Well, he's going to get rubbed out for some games.
Yep. Sure.
And there's going to be the civil suits. But all things being equal, and he's a young guy, so all things being equal, let's forget about that. He's a top 5 fantasy. He's a top 5 real and fantasy quarterback. And so especially a team like the Browns, who have had more than, I mean, talk about bad luck. Like they can't. They've had more than their share of really, really bad luck for a really long time. So part of it was probably just like, let's just knock this on the head. This is ridiculous. So, I kind of, in that way, I kind of can see the logic of the move, and I applaud it. They went after him. They paid him ridiculous amount of money, all guaranteed. And they looked after him with that $1 million. I mean, I think basically the way it works is $1 million.
Doesn't that feel a little bit dirty?
Yeah, it does.
The way they did that, it feels a little gross, right?
It's gross it's gross as all get out. I'm just putting my football blinkers on for now.
you kind of have to, right?
It's completely gross. Yeah, it is.
But, if Roger Goodell wants to get his money, Roger Goodell's going to get his money, right? Because
somehow
that's what Roger does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's very good at it. And and the press conference didn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. I didn't like it. That was all gross as well. But yeah, so we'll stick to football for a minute.
So I'm on Dynasty Trade Calculator.
Okay.
And his value is 47.5.
What's the 101 about? 20?
32.
Oh, 32. Right, okay.
32. Remember, we're talking Superflex. The 101 is 32. A mid-first is 21.
Yep.
For comparison,
101 and a late. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what I said, right? 101 and a late. late first. I mean, for comparison, Josh Allen is 64.2. Right?
Oof. Okay. All right.
I mean, I think Josh Allen's probably going to be a lot of people's QB1 after the Tyreek Hill trade, which we'll talk about Tyreek Hill a bit later.
Yep.
But I mean, if all this stuff was done and dusted, Deshaun's probably in that tier in the 60s, right? If this stuff is just, you don't have to think about it anymore, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would put his value at essentially, 3 mid-firsts, which is what you paid for Dak, right?
Oh, I sort of paid 3 late firsts, I reckon.
Well, then you're laughing.
But yeah.
But
okay, so that's about the market. So there's no doubt that I sold him cheap, but by the same token, I mean here's the other part of it is, and I know the NFL. We're not necessarily talking about high character guys. I mean, there's a big spectrum of character guys, right? So like, where do you draw the line? And I'm a little bit of an emotional fantasy player. Like I like to think that I'm pretty logical, pretty calculated with a lot of stuff, but some things just, I mean, someone sort of threw up the hypocrite card with good reason. But like last year in console wars, I think I bailed on Cole Beasley for like next to nothing because I just thought this guy's a bloody tool. And I just didn't want him on my team. So I can do stupid stuff like that. I granted.
Well, look, myself personally, and if other people want to do it differently, I'm just thinking in terms of fantasy football.
Yeah.
So I traded twice for Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
When he got when this came up last year, I think in one league I traded Chris Godwin straight up.
Ooh. Okay.
For Deshaun Watson. And then in another league, I mean, it would have been a player of a similar ilk and value.
Right.
It might have even been the same player. I can't quite remember, but again, it was for Chris Godwin, for Deshaun Watson, for a player that at the time would have been around the same value of Chris Godwin.
Okay, so pretty good wide receiver, a wide receiver one. So.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, he was coming off that pretty big year. I remember. Right, and then he had a lot quieter 2020 in comparison to 2021 in comparison to his 2020.
Yep.
But I'm happy I did it now.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I mean, okay, so probably a fair conversation is what Cleveland are going to do around him, and certainly. You've got Nick Chubb in the offense. That's great. The Amari Cooper signing is certainly, I mean, look, man, there's a window there. I reckon you could have bought Amari Cooper for quite cheap.
Yeah, not now.
Not anymore. Probably then there's a little bit of a gap though. Maybe Peoples-Jones. Oh, Peoples-Jones gets a bump. There's no doubt.
He's one player I'd love to have. What would you trade for DPG right now?
Ooh,
in rookie picks, what would you trade?
I wouldn't go overboard. A second, probably a second.
Yeah, but I mean, like when in season you're talking about random seconds, and it's a bit different, right?
Yeah.
What second would you trade right now? I'd probably go something like a 2.04 for DPG.
I was going to say 205. Yeah, that's probably about right. Because especially if you're in an offense only league. Because this at the 205, who are you picking this year?
I mean, someone like Christian Watson might be available, right?
He might. Yeah, he might. I mean, wide receivers.
George Pickens might be available in a super flex. We're talking super flex here.
Yeah, true. That's true. Until we get into drafts, heaven knows what's going to happen with quarterbacks. I guess we have to see what happens in the actual draft. I've got no idea where the quarterbacks are going to go in the ADP here. Who knows? I don't think anyone really knows.
I've got no idea.
No.
I think Malik Willis will go pretty early, and then the others could go anywhere.
Anyway, I think that sounds about right for DJP. And when Njoku gets a bump, I was a little bit disappointed with the Njoku signing because I've been a banner flyer for Harrison Bryant. But I mean, Harrison Bryant will get more of a bump now too because the tight end room's a bit smaller. Yeah, that's right.
They released Hooper.
Yeah.
But, I mean, on a per snap basis, Njoku was very, very good last year, right? So
yeah.
I'm a little bit excited. I think the window to buy him low is gone now.
Gone. Yeah.
But look, Watson's ability to improvise is going to me, I think, take that offense to a whole new level. I mean, the Kevin Stefanski offense is still going to be based around the run and the play action, but Watson's ability just to do something when it's all breaking down is just at another level compared to somebody like Baker Mayfield, right? And he's got he's got the running ability as well. So I think that improves all the weapons on that team.
Yeah, and you've got to give credit to the Texans. I think they played it very smart because Deshaun had that no trade clause. Instead of him,
it's Mick Travers, a gentleman jockey, one of Australia's finest elite athletes, just coming on to let everybody know that the Baker hate is real.
The Texans, by vetting the offers and then presenting that to Deshaun Watson's team, was very, very smart. Instead of letting Watson go, I want to go to Atlanta, say, or whatever, and then the Falcons would have known that they were the only ones negotiating, and there's no way that the Texans would have made out as well.
No. I mean, I think if all this stuff is behind Deshaun Watson, right? And when I say behind, I mean as in, I'm not talking about that he's declared innocent or whatnot and saying he didn't do this or did do that. I'm just talking about when I say behind, I mean he just gets to go on with his NFL career. Whether he should or not, I'm not the judge of that. But he gets to. I think the Browns actually got a bargain. Because they're going to be paying 3 firsts that are probably in the 20s plus, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I think it ends up being a steal for them.
I mean, his press conference aside, which I really didn't like, it was a bit cringeworthy, and I think part of that is because there's some things he has to say, right? Because if he comes out and he says, "I'm going to compensate," or I'm going to settle all the civil cases, I'm going to compensate people, then they're all going, cha-ching, money time. But that aside, he's got $230 million, right? If he does the right thing and he settles the civil case, right? Let's say the upshot of all of this is he settles the civil cases, they all get decently paid out, and then he comes out and he does like a public sort of, I was very wrong to do these things, whatever. Because look, everyone knows he bloody did it. I don't think there's any doubt.
I'm not going to speculate as to look. I don't even want to.
I'm going to bring the hate down on me by saying that, but
I don't like. It's easier to say, 22 women. Of course, he did it. I mean, this Tony Busby guy's pretty dodgy himself, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, sure.
I mean, he could coordinate something like this in 2021, 2022. I think it's doubtful. I think he definitely did something. I kind of think he reached out to these women thinking that they were those type of masseuses.
Yeah, it's possible. And, if he just reached out, and he was just reaching out for sex, and he was having a ton of sex with a whole lot of different women, I think this would be such a different story. Why didn't he just do that? Because it sounds like that's exactly what he wanted to do.
Does he not get them over the 20s? If not, is he? If not, is he worth it? Well, no, of course he's not worth it if he doesn't get over the 20s, Mick. Because that means they're not making the playoffs.
He'll be worth it. He'll be worth it. I don't think. There's so many there's not many quarterbacks in this league. You see how bloody quickly it drops off when you go down the list. You get to quarterback 12, 13, 14, and it's starting to get dodgy.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to the point now, right? You look at Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. Like you need if you have a good quarterback, right, a guy who's just good, you've almost still got to keep looking around for a guy who could be great.
Yeah, and maybe that's what happened to Baker. And okay, so people can say what they like about Baker, but 2020 he had a fantastic season. Last year, we were just talking before we hit live. It was week 2. I think it was against the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's a lot of irony there. So when he hurt his shoulder, and he wasn't himself. He really wasn't himself. It looked, I think, for a while that he was going to be rubbed out, maybe even like for the season. Played on, didn't look himself. But when you look at the numbers, he's been an average. I'm not calling him in the same tier as, your Herberts, Allens, Deshaun's. No, I'm not. But he's been a good quarterback.
But based on the back end of 2020, right, the last half of the season, I thought it was wheels up for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
This year. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And the first game and a half, it kind of looked like that, even though the touchdowns weren't there in week 1.
Right.
But I'll be surprised. Not surprised. I want to see how this shakes out. See if he has a starting job. The Seahawks look like really the only chance for him to start right now. I can't see anywhere else.
Yeah, that's the
unless he gets released.
Unless he gets released, because now the Browns are kind of holding things up. They reportedly were after, I don't know, what were they saying? Like a first-round pick for him, I think, from memory.
Yeah, they're not going to get a first.
No.
I think they could get a third, and they'd probably still have to pay some of his contract.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, the Seahawks. Well, I mean, the Seahawks looking at Willis. Who knows? There's a possibility there.
So, in short,
yep.
I'm assuming you're not trying to. So, for comparison, like I said, like Deshaun Watson's 47.5 on the calculator.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is 64.2. And then if all this stuff is behind Watson, he'd be right there with them with Allen and Mahomes in terms of value. Would you try to buy Watson now, or would you just no?
Well,
if you could get him for the 101 and 201, would you do it?
Speaking purely from a analytical standpoint, yes.
Okay.
But I wouldn't do it. And that's just me. I don't have any shares. I don't have any shares of Watson, and I don't really want any shares, which is just a personal thing. He could turn me around. I think how he handles the next 12 months will make a difference. Let's see. Let's see what happens.
Well, yeah, look, I'm not buying now. If I could sell, I would probably hold until I could sell for that Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type value, which I think will come in season once he starts playing games.
Yeah. What could you add a bit, right, to Watson and get up to I think Herbert greater than Watson, but get up to a Herbert, Allen, Mahomes tier. I'd do that. Great idea.
So on to the next big ticket quarterback item.
Yep.
And that's Russell Wilson.
Ooh. Oh, man.
And how are you feeling about Russell Wilson in this Denver Broncos offense?
Well, I did wrong side. Obviously, you can see I'm a Charger fan. Man, the AFC West. Oh my God,
it's brutal, mate.
If we split games, right? If we go 50,
win that division is the quarterbacks. Look at the quarterbacks. The worst quarterback is Derek Carr, and he just got a stud wide receiver.
Yeah, we can't count on whipping on the Raiders necessarily, or the Broncos, and the Chiefs. Man, if you split games with the Chiefs, you're doing well. You know, you're going to lose in Arrowhead. Forget that. It's going to be rough, and you know, it's when you look at the end. Sorry, I don't go in a different direction here, but like when you look at the NFC, the NFC. I mean, Tom Brady is laughing. He's absolutely laughing. Who else? And you know, even with Adams leaving the NFC, going to the AFC West, I mean, Green Bay will be thereabouts. But who the hell else?
In the NFC?
Yeah. I'm probably missing some obvious ones, but there's going to be 7 NFC teams in the playoffs, though.
There will be. But look, if you look, I mean, I don't think the NFC West, you got Matt Stafford, you got Kyler Murray.
Oh, I forgot the Rams. I shouldn't. Yeah, okay.
And maybe Trey Lance steps up and really,
yep,
you know, really takes that next step, and he's a force to be reckoned with. But man, you look at the AFC West, Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson. You look at the AFC North, Burrow, Lamar, Watson.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, those teams is going to beat up on each other so much.
Yeah, well, that's the danger, isn't it? But the AFC is so stacked, and you have 7 teams, but there's got to be. I mean, okay, so the Bills win the East, right? But I mean, look at preview what you're going to talk about probably next is the Finns, right? So the Finns are going to make a play for it. And you've got the Titans in the South and the West. I mean, so you got to have 7 teams in the AFC. Which 7 is it? There's going to be 1 or 2 really good teams miss out.
Yeah, but by the same token, right, there's a bunch of teams in the AFC you could beat up on. Houston, Jacksonville, New York. I mean, I'm very curious to see how Miami go, whether Tua steps up. I mean, it's sink or swim for him. But look, let's get back to Russell Wilson. Topic at home. Russell Wilson, Dynasty.
Yep.
And he's come out. He said he wants to play till he's 40. How old is he now? Like 33?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I'll just double check it on the Twitter machine. But, 33 years old. He's coming out, said he wants to play till he's 40. How do you feel about him from a dynasty value? Like a dynasty standing. Do you think he's going to come out and he's going to throw like he's never thrown before? And
you know, it's funny because he had DK and Lockett. So it's not like he didn't have receivers. And they had a decent run game. I mean, not necessarily, not like the Denver run game.
But the philosophy for Pete Carroll was to always run the ball.
Yeah, right? True.
And I think he had that one season, not last year, the year before, where he was throwing a lot.
Yep.
But I think that the floor on his pass attempts is a lot higher with Denver.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, Judy gets a bump. Sutton gets a bump. KJ Hamler potentially gets a bump. Albert O.
Do you want Sutton or Judy?
I want Sutton.
You want Sutton? I want Judy.
But I'll take either.
No, but if it's only one.
You know why I say Sutton? Because he's a bit cheaper, I think. Is he cheaper? I think he's a bit cheaper than Judy. I'd honestly take either. You know, I've probably got equal shares of Sutton and Judy at the moment.
Okay.
And I'd honestly take either. But if you gave me a choice, I'd probably go the cheaper option for Sutton. I think he's a little bit more. He might do a little bit better in the reception column than Judy.
Okay. Look, I'm on duty. I think he's going to get the receptions because he's just such a route runner.
Oh, yes.
And he just, to me, he's a facsimile of Tyler Lockett, and he's got the potential to be even better than Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Sutton is like a poor man's DK Metcalf to me.
Okay.
I know, like, he had a good 3-cone and that, but DK is just such a monster.
Oh, DK is
And I just think Judy is just going to get so many targets.
Oh,
he's going to be open all the time.
And the window to buy Judy is closed, but there was a window there where you could get him.
It's not closed. It depends on what you think, right? If you think that he's going to be an elite wide receiver 1, you can still buy him for a mid first. It's just whether you think that, right? You got to have the stones and conviction of how good do I think Jerry Judy's going to be. Because if you can get him for a mid first and you think he's going to be a wide receiver 1, that's a steal.
Yeah, well, that's very true. That's very true. I should say, he's a little bit more expensive now, obviously, than he was a couple of months ago.
Before you could have got him for a back end first, maybe even an early second, right? So Russell Wilson in the Dynasty calculator.
Yeah.
Thank you, Izzy. Is at 35.7.
Okay.
The 101 is, I think it was at 32. Are you taking the 101 or are you taking Russell Wilson?
Well, this quarterback class, especially if it's super flex, I think
it's super flex, right? You'll just take the bird in the hand of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're not all these quarterbacks, you're rolling the dice. If it was last year, that's a different story. But I think everybody appreciates that. Last year's quarterback class is pretty good. There's lots of options. But this year, I think you're just rolling the dice in lots of ways.
Look, if I'm a contender, I'm going to take Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I agree with you.
If I'm not a contender, I'm going to roll the dice with the 101 and take Malik Willis because I'm a Malik Willis fan. I'm big on Malik Willis.
All right.
I think he's going to be. I think as long as he's playing on the field, even if he's not playing well, his fantasy potential due to his legs is just so high.
Yep. Yeah, it probably does depend a little bit on what direction your team's going in. That's a fair call. And Javonte Williams. There's so much to love about Denver.
There is. There's a lot to love.
This could be really, really good. The only thing that in the back of my mind, the only thing that I have just in the back of my mind is Russ can be hard to own in the second half of a fantasy season.
And that's the thing. That's my concern. When he's thrown it a lot, he's fallen off, right?
Yeah, he has.
He has. And people want to ignore that, but it's a real thing. And it's something that definitely concerns me. And at his size, he said he wants to play to 40. Can he play to 40? I mean, quarterbacks just drop off. When quarterbacks just go from good to just nothing, right? There's not that gradual, decline. Like Peyton Manning came out one week and still looked like an all-pro, and then the next week he was finished.
Yeah.
And so it's always in the back of your head for anybody who's not called Tom Brady.
Yeah, I don't
know. I'm going to take Malik Willis no matter what. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Contending, I'm taking Malik Willis.
Yeah, Russ is going to show some improvement, I think. And I think there's obviously been some stuff behind the scenes. You'd never see it from Russ because he's just so perfect in terms of he's very curated in terms of the media. You'd never see it. So anything that was happening in the background, you'd never get a whiff of.
He doesn't feel quite real, right? He's like one of those manufactured pop stars.
Like
when they put a band together, like One Direction.
Right.
That's how he feels, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook. What about Westbrook? I've had too many vinos. Apologies. Look,
Yeah, I'm with you there. But yeah, overall, I like it. The AFC West is going to be very, very competitive, and exciting to watch. You can pick any game in the I think we're going to see a lot of national, maybe Sunday night, Monday night, AFC West showdowns.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
That will be special.
Yeah, it'll be special.
So look, let's go to the two big wide receiver items. Let's talk about them together because they're kind of intertwined, right?
Both
Devontae
involve
Adams,
the
Tyreek
AFC
Hill.
West as well, ironically.
Yeah, absolutely. and if Devontae Adams doesn't set the market with this contract, if the Chiefs weren't slow rolling their contract extension with Tyreek Hill, he probably re-signs with the Chiefs and they just keep going.
Exactly. Yep.
All right.
Exactly.
But they slowed their roll. Adams got a record-setting deal, and then that changed everything for Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
How do you feel about Adams and Tyreek Hill in their respective landing spots?
I feel better about Adams. Actually, you know what? I don't feel bad about either, to be honest. I feel better, and it probably is worth saying, both the what you have to pay for them in dynasties probably dropped a tiny bit. For Tyreek, a bit more than Adams. So maybe it's a window to buy, you know. And I feel good about the Raiders landing spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. They don't really have anyone. I mean, who do they have? They've got Waller and Renfro. Brian Adams has been disappointing. Brian Edwards, I should say, has been disappointing. I'm still kind of trying to wave the flag for that guy. He's pretty talented, but he just hasn't been able to translate. They don't really have anyone else. So, and the Carr Adams connection as well is a big plus.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that Fresno connection is still there.
Yep.
He's the clear one, and by a mile. And even though Tyreek Hill is probably the clear one on the Dolphins now, Jalen Waddle was a target hog last season. He's very, very talented. Mike Gesicki is going to get his targets. Yeah. It's to predict how that's going to end up being that target distribution on the Dolphins is a lot harder for me. But I know Devonta Adams is still going to get his 10 targets a game.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. And Carr has got a good arm.
Yeah. With that.
Tua, I think a lot of people are down on him, and he's been getting a lot of crap on Twitter, but look, everyone gets crap on Twitter. He's been getting a lot of arm strength kind of, memes and things. But look, the guy can throw a ball. We've seen him throw a ball in college. He showed he had an arm. It's just they didn't really use him that way. So we're going to see different. It's going to be different from Mike McDaniel.
It's put up or shut up for Tua, right? He's either going to play well, or the Dolphins have 223 first, and he's going to be replaced. They're going to get. I think that they're going to get themselves in a position to draft a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young or somebody like that. If he doesn't really put it together this year.
Yeah, but I'm not down on Tyreek necessarily. So I've seen people in some leagues, Tyreek owners, panic selling. But when I say panic selling, his price hasn't dropped a huge amount. But I'm just saying, certainly, if you're still at the Chiefs, they wouldn't be selling at all.
No, I agree. I wouldn't be panic selling Tyreek because I think, that contract shows that he's the alpha.
Yeah.
The player that I think people would have more concern about is Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I think that's fair in ways. Yeah, I think that's fair. And they're both, look, as we Mike McDaniel, I think it doesn't have to be Tua slinging it to a Tyreek Hill burning down the sideline. It doesn't have to be that. It can be Yak. And Waddle and Tyreek are like the Yak Kings. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's been the last few years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, if I look at the Dynasty trade calculator, Waddle's a 24.8, Tyreek Hill's a 27.9. Those are both big dips. Big dips compared to where they were a week ago before this trade went down.
Okay. Pretty close, actually.
Yeah, pretty close. Look, I'd be buying any dip on Waddle.
Yeah.
I'd be buying any dip on Waddle that I could.
Absolutely.
I mean, an NFL team nowadays is still going to throw out, a minimum of 450 times.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, that I need to go out there and get some Waddle. Maybe we'll get some offers for Waddle. Maybe even for Tyreek.
Maybe.
But look, I think Tyreek's production, he's not. I think he's still a wide receiver one. I don't think he's going to be that top end wide receiver one unless he gets a lot of touchdowns. He's going to be like I could see a scenario where he's catching 70 balls for 1,200 yards, and whether he's a high end wide receiver one or a back end wide receiver one is kind of going to be touchdown dependent.
I'll tell you, I saw a Tyreek trade today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Tyreek for Michael Gallup and Brandon Ayuk.
That's correct. Oh, look, I mean, on the surface, that feels gross. I mean, I don't think he's going to catch 111 balls like he did last year. I think he's going to be dropping down to that 80-ish range.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I mean that feels disgusting. But I like Ayuk, but you should be getting more for Tyreek right now still.
Yeah, well that just shows you maybe that's only one trade. Doesn't necessarily show you the whole market, but maybe it's an example of some of what's happening in the market.
No, you got. I mean, Gallup and Ayuk are good players, but they're wide receiver. Right now they're back end wide receiver twos. Right?
Fantasy, for sure.
Fantasy. And Tyreek's a wide receiver one, and you get to put him in one spot. He's taking one spot in your lineup. Those guys are taking two spots in your lineup if you're using them both.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, I like both those guys. I do like them, but yeah, you're right. Tyreek Hill plays one spot on your roster, and so you can have Tyreek Hill and receiver X. Or Gallup and Ayuk, that's two spots. You're probably scoring more on the Tyreek player, whoever side.
We don't know how Trey Lance is going to be. I'm a Trey Lance believer, but I mean, whoever's made that trade, I'm assuming they love one of those players, if not both.
Yeah, or they don't, or they're just really down on tour, essentially. So I will say there's another topic. What's it done to Tua's value?
Look, to me, Tua's. I don't think it changes that much because the risk is there that now that if he doesn't perform, he's gone.
Yep.
Right, and I think you've got to make a decision of either you believe in Tua or you don't believe in Tua. If you don't believe in Tua, it's a great time to sell him.
It is.
All right. And I could understand wanting to reset and get that, I guess, what's the word? Insulation back, right? You could sell Tua and get a prospect or get picks and have more insulation on your dynasty team.
You could, or you could use Tua to get to someone else.
Yeah. Tua plus something.
Plus something and get a top, like a QB1, maybe.
I mean, at what point do we kind of get rid of Tua's college profile? I mean, this was a guy who, for whatever reason, was talked about in the same vein as Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
Before that hip injury. But he doesn't have anything kind of super special about him, right? As far as physical attributes.
Not like T-Law, say.
Yeah, but even T-Law physical attributes compared to somebody like a Justin Herbert. Like T-Law's arm is not Justin Herbert's arm.
No.
All right. But then Tom Brady doesn't have anything special about him. And that guy was like fucking quarterback 2. All right. In fantasy last year.
Yeah.
I mean, Tua is, to me, his upside is, and it's still possible, is like Drew Brees, right? That's his.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, that's a hell of an upside, mind you.
Yeah, and it's it's a hell of an upside. And but if he can't put it together in this offense, he won't put it together.
No.
I don't know, what I would do right now. I mean, I've got Tua in a few leagues.
Mm.
I'm not sure what I would do. Like, if I could find someone who's high on him, I'd probably sell him. Otherwise, I'd just hold.
Yeah, I reckon you'd. That's a whole different podcast. Is like the philosophy of trading a bit, But you can't sell to someone that doesn't want to buy. So you want to find someone that wants Tua, and then if they want Tua, then you're in. Then you've got a discussion. But when you're shopping Tua around, you're going to get people who are just like, oh, I don't know, and you're not going to get what you want.
I think Tua can execute and put up fantasy points in this offense at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Now, when he gets to the playoffs, do things prop up that make Miami think, well, we have to replace this guy because he doesn't have any special attributes like legs or arm or anything like that. But arm strength and arm talent are different things. And I think Tua showed arm talent in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Fuck it. I'm in on Tua. I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just looking at a comparison. See, in the trade calculator, I was just looking at Derek Carr.
Yep.
In the trade calculator, Tua's at 26.3 and Carr's at 23.9.
I'm assuming this is the one and only Dynasty trade calculator from dynastytradecalculator.com. The one and only.
Do they sponsor you?
No, they don't. But I just want to shout out, Izzy. And I know Hurley's retired now, but just got to give respect to the OGs, right?
Yeah. Because look, it might just. I mean, look, maybe it depends. Depends how risk averse you are. Like I would almost, if I could pivot from Tua to Carr, that'd be a move I'd do.
What, with nothing on top? I would still probably prefer Tua.
I'd want something on top.
Yeah, if I could get anything on top of Carr, then I would probably pivot.
But the thing, I mean, it's all about risk reward a bit. Like, you know what Derek Carr is and who he is. And yes, he does get a little bit of a bump, obviously, with King Money there. But Tua, who knows what his ceiling is? But who knows what his floor is too? His floor could be the floor.
His floor could be that he's replaced, right? And he's a backup.
Right.
I'm looking at players in this trade calculator.
Okay.
And I mean, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields are both at 34.3.
Okay.
If I could add a small piece and go from Tua to Lawrence or Fields, I would do that all day long.
I would too. Yeah, I would.
Anyone, yeah. I think most people would.
Yeah. Trey Lance, on the other hand, I'm not sure. I don't think I'd do that.
Well, what's Trey Lance in here?
I don't have the warm fuzzies about Trey Lance as much, but Fields and T-Law, yes, I agree with you.
Lance is about to come up. He's right there, 34.2.
Yeah, he probably is.
I mean, Look, I would probably do that. I'd probably do that pivot as well. If it's a small piece,
Yeah.
right? If it's like an early to mid second,
Yep.
with Tua to move to any of those three guys,
Yeah.
I'd probably do it. I mean, I saw what Kyle Shanahan was able to do with Nick Mullins, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about Trey Lance.
I feel like the people who have got Fields and Lance probably aren't moving them. But I reckon there's a bit of a window with T-Law because of Urban Meyer's incompetence.
Look, I mean, I don't think that I don't think Tua and a second gets it done, even though based off these trade calculator values, it's almost it's an easy win for the Tua and the 2.01 side.
Okay. You might just need to wait to week one, Tua comes out and Tyreek, burns the defensive backs of whoever he's playing, goes 3 TDs. If that happens, then you're in. But then you might not want to sell at that point.
Yeah. So we're in on Adams. We're in on Hill.
Yeah, I reckon.
Adams over Hill.
Yes,
Hill
for
will
me.
drop, but he's still a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I reckon so.
And I actually think Adams would be cheaper than Hill.
From an age perspective, probably 28, isn't he, Adams?
29. He's turning 30 next off season.
Does he?
They're right.
Okay.
I mean, their value in the calculator is basically a wash. I still think people would value Hill over Adams. He's just because people, we watch the games. He's a more exciting kind of player.
Yep.
I just think that all factors into it, and I think people would prefer Hill to Adams. But at their cost, I think Adams would be cheaper to trade for than Hill, and for that reason, I would prefer Adams.
Yeah. He's got that age label now, so he's sort of dropping off in terms of value. But I don't mind that at all. I'm more than happy to trade for the quote unquote older guys.
Yeah.
Says us talking about 28-year-old guys who are absolutely ripped. We'll call them older guys.
Hey man, I'm ripped. All right?
Yeah.
Listen. Look, I think Adams is the type of wide receiver to me who I think is going to age well. So.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I think he's got another good 3 years left at least.
Oh, hell yeah.
But so look, I mean, those were the big ticket items. Yeah. Is there anybody else? Are there any other players in particular you want to touch on and talk about?
Not really. There's been lots and lots. No, not really. Not that are big ticket ones. I'm sneakily going out and buying Jamison Crowder shares.
Ooh.
Because I think that he's going to eat in Buffalo.
Because you hate Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, no, I love Gabriel Davis.
Gabriel Davis.
I love Davis. Right? But I don't think it hurts Davis. I think they played different roles. Okay. So it'll be all right. But man, there's been so much movement. It's been insane.
The one guy I would want to touch on, and I think he's a very controversial player, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, that's
now with the Chiefs.
That's a good topic. Juju. Yeah. What do you think?
And look, I don't know because it depends what the Chiefs do in the draft, right?
I'll tell you what I know. I don't think Juju is a number 1 wide receiver.
I don't think he's an NFL wide receiver. I don't think he's an NFL number 1 wide receiver.
No.
But I could see a scenario where he still posts fantasy wide receiver 1 statistics.
As you said, it depends what they do in the draft. Because if Juju is quote unquote the guy, then I don't want Juju. Also, it does depend where they play him, because if they put him basically out of the slot most of the time, then yes.
Juju's a power slot, right?
Yeah.
He's a power slot. That's what he is.
Exactly.
He's not great with press coverage.
That's right.
But I mean, if like not this season, the season before. I mean, he caught 97 balls, right?
Yeah.
And it was only for about 800 something yards.
Okay.
I'm just looking it up now because I'm slow and old, but 2020, 97 balls for 831 yards.
Okay.
All right. And he only averaged 8.6 yards of reception. I mean, if he got that kind of the targets that result in that 97 catches on Kansas City, I could easily see him catching 100 balls for 1,100 yards.
Sure.
Right. And getting, 10 or 11 touchdowns.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a big but though, because they need someone who's going to play the X. They need, look, in the draft, they go and MVS.
They got MVS who's going to sprint, but he's going to sprint down the sidelines, right?
I suppose. Is he? That's what he does. But yeah, I guess he won't scare many people. Mecole Hardman, forget about.
If Jamison Williams falls to one of those Chiefs late first round picks, right? They pick 29. I think they pick 29 30. Anyway, it's like
they do back to back.
If Jamison Williams falls to one of those picks, I might make him my wide receiver 1 for Dynasty.
Yeah, that's a fair call. They need a linebacker, mind you. But there you go. They can pick a wide receiver and a linebacker. Their defense.
I think he's all sorts of talented.
Yep.
And he would be my wide receiver 1 if he goes to that team with that first round draft capital.
And then it makes some sense, right? Then it makes some sense, Juju. But Juju right now doesn't make a lot of sense yet. But we haven't seen the whole picture. So I don't know how I feel about it. You could buy Juju there you go. Juju pre-NFL draft is going to be a lot cheaper.
I would have bought him before this trade, and I'll probably buy him after the draft, but I'm not going to buy him now.
Yeah, he's certainly spiked now.
I'll be gobsmacked if they don't draft the wide receiver with one of those first round picks or one of those second round picks.
They really
at least one.
They really have to. There's no one left. I mean, like Green Bay, right? There's no one. There's no free agents left.
It's just. I mean, there's so many wide receivers I would like in that offense: George Pickens, Skylar Moore, Jamison Williams. To me, they would be all great fits. And I mean, Andy Reid. Does any coach adjust to the talent that he has on his roster better than Andy Reid? Besides maybe Belichick.
Oh yeah, well,
and, you know what? On offense, I think Reid probably adjusts better than Belichick.
Okay,
as far as maximizing the potential of the guys that he has.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. Well, actually, I mean they've signed Ronald Jones now. I was going to say I don't know about CEH though.
Controversial take.
Yeah,
Jones, the Ronald Jones signing for me. Is good news for CEH.
I think it probably is.
To me, that means he's going to get all the pass catching work.
Right. I think that's a fair take.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about CEH, and I've got some shares of CEH. I don't know how I feel.
Look, to me, you just got to hold at this point, right?
I know. You can't sell. No, well, if you're selling, you're going to be selling him for nothing.
You're not going to get shit for him. Just hold him.
No.
Look. Got to wrap this up soon because I told the missus to have dinner ready at 7:30.
No,
I asked her to have dinner ready at 7:30. I didn't tell her anything. She's the boss. don't get that. Don't get that mixed up, mate. She's very much in charge. But before we wrap this up, NFL draft, and maybe we could connect on this and have a more in-depth conversation. But quarterback 1, RB 1, wide receiver 1.
I don't know that I've seen enough of them yet to say. To be honest, I've been watching a lot of defensive players. Why don't you get me on? I tell you what, we'll make a time. I'll come on and I'll talk D-line, linebackers,
Right.
D-backs.
IDP. We're all here for IDP. All right.
Awesome.
You and I, we're in an IDP league. All right. Let me do my research, catch up to the maestro.
Yep.
And
lovely.
And then we'll roll it out.
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Well, thanks for the chat. I've enjoyed it, and it's a pity Hatton didn't join us.
Thank you for jumping on at short notice.
Oh, that's all right.
I very much appreciate it.
Lazy Sunday afternoon in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Beautiful day.
But it's been a fun time.
It has. Thank you so much. And till next time.
Until next time, people, I'm out. AJ's out. Thank you, mother, for the rabbits.